Good afternoon. My name is Duane Miller. I'm a minister, a worker with Anglican Frontier Missions. My wife and I have been with them for 14, 15 years now, most recently in Spain. That's after quite some years over in the Middle East, and then some time doing training and mobilization back here in the States. I want to share with you a little bit about the context of our ministry in Madrid, and then I'm going to tell you about one of the specific projects that we're working on there. So first of all, Spain. That's a country of about 46 to 47 million people. That's to give you an idea of the population of the country. Now, Madrid is both a city and a community. That's what we would call here a state, or in some other places they'd call it a province. So the city of Madrid itself has about 3.2 million people. It's a large city, the most populous one in Spain. And then the community, or the state, has about 6.5 million. So one of the most populous ones in the country. We live in a neighborhood called Ríos Rosas. It is just about 30, 40 minutes walking north of downtown. So it is still close to the city center, and that was intentional on our part. So when I was going there some years ago on an exploratory trip to figure out if this was really the right place for us to minister, I met another missionary or worker with the Assemblies of God. His name is Dan. And Dan also has a heart for Muslims, as do Sharon and I. So once we got there and we got settled in, Dan and I agreed to go on a prayer walk every week through this neighborhood that's close to where both of us live. And this neighborhood is called Tetuan. Tetuan is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in Madrid, and it has a significant Moroccan population, and that's the reason that we chose to do our prayer walks there. And one day, I said, Dan, wouldn't it be interesting, wouldn't it be great if we could start a prayer group or a prayer service once a week or once a month here in Tetuan? We'll do it all in Arabic and just see if anyone shows up. So it was just kind of a thought experiment. He said, well, I know a pastor who knows the pastor of one of these little storefront churches that's mostly just Latino, and I'll talk to him. I'm like, oh, okay. So it turns out that pastor is like, yes, that's great. I love the idea. You guys can have it one evening a week. So that door opened. And then I'm thinking about, well, we need funds for this because we have funds to pay for our family expenses. But to launch a church, I was thinking, well, we need some audio-video equipment, we need some musical equipment, we need a good high-quality website. I don't want to just have a low-quality, WordPress blog or something like that, something that is engaging, that has a lot of good content. And I'm thinking that, this all costs money. Well, I get an email from a church in the States that supported our work for years, and they said, we've had this piece of land that we've had for a long time, and we're selling it, and we'd like to give some of that to foreign missions. Do you have any grant proposals for a particular project, not to your family, but for a project? I'm like, yeah, actually, we're trying to do this thing, starting an Arabic language fellowship in Madrid. So I sent that in, and they approved that. So God had just opened that door. And again, I hadn't gone asking. It just opened. And then we start this. Sharon is doing the music in Arabic. I am doing teaching and reflections. And then we meet a wonderful Egyptian pastor. And he is from the Free Methodist Church in the United States, of course, though from Egyptian origins. And he is a guy who is just a great teacher, very well educated, and we just totally mesh. So this is a God thing. Assemblies of God, Anglican, Free Methodist, right? And it's wonderful to see how this is coming together. I'm thinking we've got to have a good website, because if you work with Muslims at all, you know that they will not usually talk about their questions with people around them. They'll go to the internet where they can just be private and then delete the history, and their family won't know that they're trying to find a church or trying to get a Bible or whatever. So we have to have a good quality website. Well, a Christian photographer, a professional photographer says, I will walk around Tetuan with you for half a day and take photographs, good quality photographs. Normally this would cost hundreds of euros to hire someone to do. I'll do it for free. Amazing. So the website is up, and just to give you an idea of how important it is to have a good, high-quality website, we've been going for 1 year, In October, the fellowship will turn 1 year old. And in 1 year, all through the website, we've had 3 people requesting baptism just through the website. So we're moving towards that. We're working with all of them, and we'll see where those go, because you have to take it slow with baptism. It's a serious thing with Muslims. And then finally, we got contacts from other people. Someone said, well, I've got this great ministry online, and I've got these people I'm in touch with, and I'm Anglican, and I want to connect them with an Anglican, but they don't have any, they live in countries where they don't have churches, or they're Arabs, and they don't have an Arabic church. Can you do something with them? So we start live casting our services via Facebook. So all of this working together, we have this wonderful synergy and this energy working together. And through Facebook and then putting videos on YouTube from our teaching, we've reached hundreds of people. It's a very small ministry. I don't think we've ever had more than 11 or 12 people there physically for our meeting. But on the other hand, given that we're only a year old and that this is such a novel type of ministry in Madrid, I feel like God is doing something really, really special. Well, I want to share with you now 5 key lessons that I have learned from this experience, because I would like for you to be able to go back to your cities and to your places where you're ministering, whether those are here in the United States or in other countries, and ask yourselves, do we have the resources, or really not even resources, is God calling us to do something like this where we are? Is God calling us to do something like this where we are? So the first thing is, anticipate a lot of spiritual opposition. And that might sound like a no-brainer, right? We're like, well, we all know that there's spiritual opposition. Okay, there's spiritual opposition, and then there's spiritual opposition. The work that we do at the cathedral, I have not had anything like this. Teaching at the seminary, I have not had anything like this. Numerically, this is clearly the least impressive or the least substantial of all the ministries that we work with, yet there's no doubt that it is the main ministry that has been pressed back on by the powers of darkness. So just be ready. I don't know what it is about working with Muslims and reaching out to Muslims, sharing the gospel with them, catechizing them, baptizing them, forming them into leaders, which is a really long and strenuous process, by the way. But there's something about that mission and that ministry that Satan really, really does not like. And he's willing to invest a lot of his resources working against it. So that's the first point, is to anticipate a lot of spiritual resistance. The second thing that we learned, and this has been discouraging in many ways, is that we are dealing with a very transient population. A very transient population. We have noticed in Madrid, and this has been verified by people in other places, that the Muslims who are most open to listening to the gospel almost always tend to be the ones who are going through a period of transition. People who have recently immigrated from fill in the blank, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Morocco. The Muslim populations in Western cities that have been there for 1 or 2 generations, they're settled in, they have a sense of we know who we are, and they tend to be a lot less open to the gospel. So, because of that, you're dealing with people who are economic migrants, and they, guess what, will move wherever there is work. You're dealing with people who are going through the refugee and asylum system, and oftentimes the government or the refugee agency will say, we need to move you, and guess what? They have to move. So one example is this wonderful brother. He was an Egyptian, not a convert, but from a Christian family named Magdi. And he was a person of peace. He was like the Samaritan woman in John 4. Every Tuesday evening, he'd bring someone new, some miscellaneous guy that he had just met. Some of them were Muslims, some of them were ex-Muslims who weren't sure if they believed anything, but he was just one of the main gifts and the main members that we had in our little fellowship. And guess what? The government says, you have been accepted for the whole refugee process, and guess what? You need to move to the city of Bilbao, all the way in the north of Spain. from one day to the next, we lost one of our main lay people. I'll give you another example. I got a message from a young Moroccan man named, I'm not going to say his name, and he said, I don't know very much about Christianity, but I don't want to be a Muslim anymore. Will you teach me and baptize me, please? So we get to, this happens. So we get together, and I'm talking with him, trying to figure out where he is, what little he knows, what he doesn't know. And I say, okay, so we're just going to begin at the beginning of Mark. We're going to do a verse-by-verse study through Mark, and I want you to know how to study the Bible, basically, is what I'm working on. Well, we're doing this. I have to go on a brief pastoral assignment to another town for 2 weeks. I hand him off to another colleague. They're meeting together. I get back, and Hisham, I'm like, hey, okay, Hisham, let's get together. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got deported. I'm back in Morocco. Boom. Like that. Now, I worked, and I'm still trying to keep him involved in Kanisa. Kanisa is the name of the fellowship, the Arabic word for church. And we can do that because of Facebook, because of WhatsApp, because of YouTube. So there are ways to keep him involved. I've also gotten in touch with some workers in his country to try to arrange for them to discipleship him personally. So we do a lot of follow-up, even when people leave. However, here was this promising young man who was very energetic. We were working through Mark. He was really getting it. I was really encouraged. And then gone. So we're dealing with a transient population. It's rough. If you've worked with student ministry at a university, it's a little bit like that, but even more transient, actually. A third thing to keep in mind is you need to be careful with the word Arabic or the word Arab. You need to be careful with the word Arabic or Arab. Why is that? Because Arab can refer to several different things. Arab can refer to a language. It can refer to a culture. It can refer to an ethnic group. And here's the thing. A lot of ethnic groups speak Arabic, but they are not Arabs. I'll give you an example since we're focusing on Moroccans, and so many of the Muslims that we work with are Moroccans. What is the name of the ethnic group that is indigenous to Morocco? The Berbers, right? Thank you. The Berbers. And they actually have their own word for it, but we'll just call them Berbers. That's the word that we know in English. And many of the Berbers are quite adamant that they are not Arabs. And if they see something that says the Arabic Church, what do you think their reaction will be? They'll be like, What if you have it in Arabic, but you say the Christian Church? That's the name of the fellowship in Arabic, by the way. Al-Kanisa al-Mesihiyya fi Madrid. The Christian Church in Madrid. That's all. It's written in Arabic, but we don't say that it's an Arab church, and it's precisely for that. And we learned that from the error of another church in southern Spain. There's only 3 Arabic language fellowships in all of Spain, and we're one of them. Although I think there's a 4th one in formation, which is fantastic. Dan asked, well, should we call ourselves the Arabic or the Christian Church in Madrid? Like, what if someone starts another one? I would say, praise God, but let's cross that bridge when we get there. Okay? So that's the third point. You've got to be careful with the word Arabic. You can say we are Arabic speaking, we worship in Arabic, but there are many ethnic groups throughout the Middle East that are not Arabs. The Berbers are one of them, Copts, Armenians, and several other ones. A fourth point. Sometimes other churches just won't get what you're talking about. Even churches that are evangelical, that want to preach the gospel, that are missions-minded, you talk about this sort of project, and they'll look at you like you're visiting from Neptune. So just be aware that some churches and some leaders who love the Lord will just not get the project at all. So you can't just assume that everyone's going to support it. And the second one, and this is my final point since I got 30 seconds, is that, and this is here especially in the United States and in the developed world, some pastors and some leaders are aware that having an outreach to Muslims is kind of like the cherry on top of the sundae. It's a very attractive thing. It's a very cutting-edge ministry, right? So if you're going to have a ministry like this, a fellowship, or even a Bible study that is focused on reaching out to Muslims or Muslim background Christians, you need to very clearly outline and define the relationship between this ministry and the local church. Because guess what? Maybe sometime you'll need to move to a different place. Maybe you'll find that all the people who want to attend live in a whole different part of town. You need to have that flexibility. So it's important to clearly define right from the beginning what is the relation between this ministry and the local church. Okay? So anyway, those are the 5 points that I wanted to share with you in addition to our experience of what we did and what it was like for us to start this fellowship, Al-Kinisa Al-Mesihiyya fi Madrid. And you're welcome to join our Facebook page, and if you want to listen to all the sermons and singing in Arabic, we would love that. Thank you. Okay, that was 15 minutes and 50 seconds, so I transgressed the limit a little bit. Don't tell anyone. Any questions, comments? I tried to cram a lot of stuff into a little bit. Yeah?
You started off by saying you had 3 requests for baptism.
Yes.
From somebody you'd never met.
Yes.
Except over the internet. So they understand that you have to come in to be baptized.
Mm-hmm. So we've had a variety. So the 3 requests for baptism, one of them was from this young man, again I won't say his name, who was in Madrid. One of them, the other one was from a man who was in Madrid, again transient, he's not anymore, he had to leave for a job. And then another one, the most recent one, is from a lady who's in Toledo, which is about a 30 or 40 minute train ride from Madrid. So the baptism, that's all been from local people. Just 1 or 2 nights ago, I got another request, but this is from a person who's actually in Egypt. But hey, they found our ministry, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to help them out. So yeah, the 3 requests for baptism were from people who were actually 2 of them in Madrid, 1 of them in a neighboring city where there's nothing in Arabic or anything like that. So we're working with a lady in Toledo. I'm in communication with the guy who was in Madrid but who's now outside of Madrid. But the thing is, you have to do the discipleship or the catechism. So one of the things that we did, one of the projects of our church, was we took the short catechism from the 1979 BCP and translated that whole thing into Arabic, and we put that online. So when people are like, so now we have that reason. Although my Free Methodist friend who did most of the translation, he said, I'm not sure about this question, why do we pray for the dead? Could we take that out? I'm like, you know what, just take it out. I'm not going to go and even ask the church publishing group or whoever's in charge of that. You take it out. I don't care about that. So anyway, now we have this great resource. So like this young lady, Afaf, or I shouldn't use names here, this is being recorded. The young lady who is in Toledo, I can point her to that, and I put her in touch with a mature believer who is in Morocco, who uses the Christian baptismal name Esther. That's not her legal name. That's the name that she chose at her baptism. And Esther is a mature, older sister. And I said, I know that you're in different countries, but Esther, I want you to go over these questions and unfold them for her biblically so that she can understand them. We already have a church arranged in Toledo where we can do a baptism by immersion. That's important. Not because sprinkling is not a legitimate way to baptize, but we just don't want for there ever to be a problem. If she moves to a different city and they're like, well, you were baptized by sprinkling, we have to baptize you again. Let's just get rid of that doubt from the beginning. Let's just baptize her by immersion. So all this stuff, it's painstaking, it's slow, but it's amazing the stuff that is happening. Yeah.
Over the last few days, there are a lot of stories about where people are located and what you can say, what you can't say.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? Is there any problems that you had, any pushback from local, in Spain, it's maybe a little bit more benign than a lot of these places.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any opposition to what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish?
So in Spain, the opposition is not going to come from the government. The government is not really going to care either way about it. But what happens is you're in a neighborhood. If it was just a regular Spanish neighborhood, people wouldn't really care. but we're in a neighborhood that has a strong Moroccan population. We are literally 1 block away from the mosque. 1 block away. Like, you walk around the corner, you go up the street, boom, there's the mosque. Well, go up, and then around the other corner, and there's the mosque. So one project that we had, we wanted to bring over this brother who's a convert from Saudi Arabia and have him as a guest speaker and arrange a bunch of events. This is a common thing when you're launching a church or new ministry, right? You want to get a guest speaker in, advertise it, so people are like, that's interesting, I'm going to go. This is not rocket science. Anyway, talk about spiritual opposition. Everything wrong happened. I mean, for his flight, his luggage got lost, his luggage had his medication in it. I mean, one thing after another, after another, after another. Anyway, he was not able to come over, but he was able to give his teaching via Skype, actually, or Zoom, or whatever it was. So that was good. And then we recorded that, and we put that on YouTube. So that's still there, and people can use those resources. Like, we don't just get the teaching and like, okay, that's over, boom. No, we put that on YouTube, and that's on there in Arabic, good biblical teaching in Arabic, that people can access for however long YouTube exists. Well, so for him, we had to make a decision, me and Dan and Rauf. Are we going to keep this low because of security? Or are we going to be bold and we're going to advertise this knowing that some people are not going to like the fact that we have an ex-Muslim Christian from Saudi Arabia coming to give a guest talk? And we decided, you know what, we prayed about it. And this is not the answer that everyone has to have, but we decided we have to be bold. So we printed posters, and the name of his talk was, I'm a Saudi, I am a Christian, right? And so we went and we stuck these up all over Tetuan. Now, I don't know if you would want to call it opposition, but they were gone like within a day. You put up stuff for a concert or something like that, people will leave it up. But people saw this and they did not like it, and it's clear that people took this stuff down. But we've decided that we need to be bold. We need to be open about who we are, and so far, beyond people just taking down posters and stuff like that, we've not had any negative stuff. The main concern for us really is for the people that we're with, because even if they're in Spain, their families oppose them, their families or their employers, if their employers are Muslims, they'll maybe fire them or give them a hard time. And then, of course, the other thing is that most of them sooner or later end up going back to Morocco. So either for a visit, or a visit means like the whole summer, by the way, to be with family. So that's our main security concern, not for ourselves, but it's for the people that are connected to our congregation, the ones who live in Spain and the ones who don't live in Spain but are still connected to our ministry. Now, did you have a question?
Yes. Has there been any experience of people requesting baptism under false pretenses to get intel about Christian work?
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting question. I don't think that we've never had that problem, and I've never heard of that happening in Spain. The problem in Europe is people requesting baptism because they want to get the certificate showing that they were baptized, so then they can go to the government and say, see, I'm a Christian now, and if I go back to fill in the blank, I'll be persecuted. That's the worry. And that's why, even though we've received 3 requests for baptism, we go slowly with this. And because that's a way of separating the wheat and the chaff. If you say, well, we want you to be faithful, either attending or at least watching the service, and we want you to read the Gospel of Mark. I mean, we're not going to give them the Summa Theologiae by Thomas Aquinas or something like that. And then if people are faithful, that's an indication that they're serious about this. And if people are like, oh, well, I just wanted the certificate, usually they're just gonna head out and go try to find somewhere else to do it. On the other hand, we don't do what the Catholic Church does, which is like, well, we can't even talk to you about it until you've been attending Mass for 2 years. Now, I understand why the Catholic Church does that, but I mean, that just doesn't seem right either, to say we can't even talk about it for 2 years. And that's what happened to the young lady in Toledo. And also, the priest at the Catholic Church, and I'm not trying to criticize the Catholic Church, but her experience was negative. He just didn't seem to have any interest at all in helping her or even guiding her along or anything like that. So, but it's good. So that's why we're there, so she can reach out to us. She just sent me a beautiful song, a Christian song that she sang. I can play it for you guys. She just sent it to me 1 or 2 nights ago. I just don't know if the sound will be any good. But anyway. Oh, that's me talking to her. Oh, I don't think you guys can hear it. Sorry.
I'll turn my page up.
Yeah, so if anyone wants that, give me your phone number. If you have WhatsApp, I'll send you the audio file. There's no security concern with that. But how beautiful, she's having problems with her husband, with her extended family, and here she is, we're communicating by WhatsApp, and, and this is what she sends me.
What would your church look like in 5 years if God really worked a major miracle?
Mm-hmm. I love that question. I love to dream big, right? I mean, because if you don't make any appointments, if you don't have any expectation, what did Yogi Berra said? If you don't know where you're going, you're certainly going to get there, or something like that.
Any road will get you there.
Yeah, any road will get you there. So yeah, you got to have a goal, something that you're praying for. Well, I would like to have more people, obviously, at our Tuesday meetings. Maybe move the Tuesday meeting to a Saturday or a Friday. The scheduling is always difficult in a huge city because of transportation and work schedule. There's no way to fix this. We have been praying that there would also be a meeting, another ministry center on the south side. And I had lunch with a Baptist missionary, and I shared that with him. This was before the summer. And I said, I would love to see something on the south side of Madrid, because it's a really big city, 3.2 million people. So just getting from the north to the south, or the south to the north, and everyone uses public transportation. And even if you have a car, it still takes a long time. It's just very time-consuming, very difficult. And I got back after the summer, and guess what they were doing? They had started not a full service, but a Bible study down in the southern part of the city. So now we have 2 Arabic language fellowships in Madrid. So one of those things, you're talking about dreaming, one of them already happened. Because Madrid is so big, you couldn't just have one, you need to have 2. We could have 3 or 4 more, by the way, because this is with the suburbs and everything. I would like to see, of course, more people attending the regular service. I would love to be training and discipling someone to become the pastor of the church, someone who is indigenous to the Arab world. I don't care if they're from Morocco or somewhere else, but I mean, I don't, like with the seminary in Nazareth, we got there, we started the seminary up, it was going, we handed on leadership to the local Christians, and we left. That's how I like to do things. I would eventually like to do that with this ministry as well. And our prayer for this year, last time we met before the summer and had our kind of leadership meeting at the Turkish restaurant, which is since we don't have offices, that's where we meet for our leadership meetings, was to have a baptism. Okay, we'd like to have a baptism this year. Now, if we did that on the easy, we would already have it. But as I've explained, we want to have a baptism, but with the proper discipleship and preparation. And I also think that what we're doing in Madrid, I mean, for Spain and a lot of Europe, it's the tip of the spear. It really is. I mean, we would like to be able to take what we've done and be able to teach other people, here is how you can do this with more detail. And of course, I had 15 minutes, right? With more detail and also with more time. Because again, the fellowship is only 1 year old. So I'd like to see more people. I would like to continue meeting at one of the established churches. I would like to see a growth. There's actually a lot of material in Arabic, theological material and stuff, so we don't need to translate any more stuff. And I would also like to see more work or more cooperation among the Arabic-speaking fellowships in Spain, because right now there's 3, I think, almost 4. Yes?
You may have said this at the beginning. Do you have any connections with the university students?
Mm-hmm. Do we have any connections with the university students? Presently, we don't. No. I would love to, but we don't right now. And yeah, it's something that we could look into.
I would think many of them would come from some of these countries, maybe. I don't know.
They do. Yeah, they do.
International students
Mm-hmm.
coming to study Spanish.
Well, they don't usually come to study Spanish. They usually come to do a degree and then go back. We actually have universities in Madrid where you can get your degree like in English. Not a degree in English, but like you can get your degree just using the English language during the entire time. So, some degrees. So, yes?
Do you know Brent McHugh?
Yes, of course I know Brent McHugh. Yeah, he's down in Malaga. He's a fellow priest in the Spanish Episcopal Church, and we get together and hang out at Synod and have a raucous time. You know, synods are crazy things. So, yeah, I know Brent, and we're happy to work together and to learn from each other. And yeah, he's a dear brother. Yeah. Yes.
Dr. Duane,
Mm-hmm.
it's so encouraging and really amazing that how the Lord guided you and shown the vision and you made yourself available. I was just thinking about the university students, maybe the online stuff that you are posting, it would be a great source.
Mm-hmm.
We would continue to pray for you.
Yeah.
In new ways.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a close friend who does a lot of ministry to college students, so maybe that would be a...
Yeah, my difficulty, I mean, we've been in Spain for 2 years, and I haven't cracked the nut of how university ministry in Spain works. Like, if I'm in the States, I know it because I was in the university, you know, and I was a minister, I was a student leader at ministry, and I know how the culture of universities in the States works, but I don't know what student ministry looks like in Spain. And also, remember, Spain is way, like, 1.5% Protestant. There are way more Muslims in Spain than there are Protestants. So having a Protestant ministry at a university would be a pretty rare thing. I think it's an important thing. I would love to see more of it, but I don't think that there are many of them. I don't know of a single one in Madrid. Do you know of any student ministries, like
yes.
university ministries in Madrid?
International Fellowship of Evangelical Students.
Mm-hmm. IFES, do they have something in Madrid? You guys have something in Madrid?
They've been there for 10 years. Spaniards on staff and internationals on staff, working with international students in English, and they're coming from all over the world to take classes, and a lot of them come to take Spanish. And they've
Fantastic.
been there for 25 years.
Great. Well, there's my email. Can you put us in touch with each other?
Oh yeah.
I would love to do that.
too.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. We would love to. We just want to cast our nets wide, you know, and we want to just reach out. But the thing is, also, we've noticed with people who speak Arabic, a lot of the stuff is through word of mouth. Culturally, that's still how people do a lot of stuff. So that's. But we are happy to contact and talk with anyone who will talk with us. So I would love to meet up with some of the student leaders and, you know, just help them to know that we're a resource and that we're happy to help them, especially if they have any students from the Arab Arabophone world. Arabophone. It's a real word in English, by the way. Arabophone. We don't tend to use it. I like to use it a lot. Parsophone. That's another word for like Farsi speaking. We've got a lot of great words in English we underuse. So. Great. Yes?
It's a frivolous question, I suppose. I'm just wondering, I noticed, I'm just wondering, how do you generally dress? Do you usually wear a collar? Do you find that's a positive in that particular culture, or do you tend to dress just like that?
I tend to be pragmatic. So if I'm going to or coming from church or a ministry thing, I'll wear a collar. But if, like for the Arabic fellowship, the collar doesn't really mean anything to them. It's interdenominational. If I wore a collar, no one would object. But so I just wear just regular lay clothes. Spain is interesting. You get people who really love the church and really hate the church, and of course, when people see me, they assume I'm a Roman Catholic priest.
Unless you're walking around holding your wife's hand and your grandchildren.
Yes, in which case you'll get other reactions. So usually, 9 times out of 10, people just ignore you because they don't know you, and it's a big city, and that's how things are. But every now and then, there's a lot of older people in our neighborhood. And so, one time I was walking, and, this lady was walking with her helper, and he said, "Oh, Padre," she was wondering if you would give her a blessing. Of course, I'm not going to be like, whoa, I'm Anglican, I'm not Roman Catholic. I'm like, no, of course. You say a blessing on someone, you ask them their name, you say a brief prayer, and you pronounce a blessing on them. Of course, I've also had people yell obscenities at me, because there's a lot of anti-Catholicism too in Spain, or bump into me and try to push me over because I'm wearing a collar. So you get a little bit of everything. Although one time I was walking with my wife and the kids, and this guy from across the street's like, "Are you Orthodox?" And I said, "I'm Anglican." And he said, "Yeah." So again, a little bit of everything. I like it though. I like it. The one time that I totally confounded someone is when I went to the Baptist seminary where I teach Old Testament, and I was wearing a collar. And later on, he's like, "Why were you wearing that when you came?" And I'm like, "Because it was a clean shirt. That is actually the reason I was wearing it. I'm sorry, just a little bit much laundry." So that's a great question, though. My wife, however, does not like it when I wear my full cassock.
In public.
In public, yeah.
On the metro.
On the metro.
Okay, I'm also a very pragmatic person, so I'm thinking we're going to have to dry clean this sucker as soon as you're done with it. The metro is not a clean area.
Yeah, and I didn't know until I got ordained that cassocks were so expensive. So, yeah, I was like, what's up with that? Right. Any other questions, comments?
So if you're walking with your wife and somebody asks if you're Orthodox, they have maybe a different question in mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, but he means capital O, like Eastern Orthodox, yeah. And I'm like, I don't even have a beard, man. Look at that. I started growing out a beard, and my bishop was like, no, we don't grow beards in the Spanish Episcopal Church. I'm like, okay. And I'm like looking at the photograph of the founding bishop who has a nice beard. I'm like, yes, bishop. I will shave the beard off, no problem. So.
Tell them the Orthodox this is just my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not planning on becoming bishop.
Well, I hope you guys will seriously be able to go back to your cities. And by the way, Martha, you're from San Antonio, right? And when we left San Antonio, there was no Arabic language fellowship, but there is one now. Some colleagues that I was working with during our time in San Antonio later informed me, hey, we've started something up. So, this stuff is happening in different places. It's happening all over the world, and we need more and more of it. People sometimes ask, well, shouldn't they go to the local churches? I'm like, if I have someone, and we have a sister who does come to the Arabic Fellowship from time to time, but she's lived in Spain for a long time, and she's fluent in Spanish. So she, every Sunday goes to a local Baptist church. And I'm like, hey, God bless her. She's got a church. It's in her neighborhood. We're kind of far from her. She's got a church. It's in her neighborhood. Her Spanish is fluent. Fine,
She's got a community there already.
Yeah, and she already knows the people there. But the point is, a lot of the people who come to us, either their Spanish is not very good, or they have no Spanish at all sometimes, or the Arabic language is their heart language, and that's just the language that they want to use, and that's what they want to worship in. So, but yeah, if people want to integrate into the local Spanish church and they have the language for it, God bless them. I'm fine with that. Okay, and I don't know, when does this end? It's 4:40 right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Ultimately, it never ends.
Fantastic. And if anybody would like to get our email updates on ministry, we only send them out about once every 2 months, and they're pretty brief. I don't like overloading our people who are interested in our mission with books and books. Please, and also get updates from Anglican Frontier Missions about what AFM is doing, not only in Spain, but around the world. There is a piece of paper back there, so just put your name and your email address, and we would be happy to keep you up to date on all the stuff that we're doing. If any of you have any follow-up questions, there is my email address. Also, yesterday morning, I gave a 40-minute talk on trends in Christian mission to Muslims. So a 40-minute intense thing about what is going on in the world, where are we coming from, what's going on now, and some things about where we might be heading. And that whole talk, I put it on my YouTube channel, or as we like to call it in Spain, YouTube. On my YouTube channel. If you want to get my YouTube stuff, you've got to put in Duane Miller Islam. Because there's another pastor, Duane Miller, who's more well-known than I am. He had no voice for many years, and then halfway through his sermon, he started speaking again. This is a pretty cool miracle, so I don't hold it against him. But yeah, you have to put Duane Miller Islam. You scroll down, you'll see my profile. Click subscribe, and you'll have access to loads and loads of lectures, both in English and Spanish, that you can listen to or share with anyone that you think might be interested in this stuff. It's also kind of like a Sunday school that's pretty much ready to go. We're like, okay, we're going to listen to something today, and then we'll have some Q&A. And so if you're getting back from Synod, or if it's after Easter and you're like, I cannot deal with planning another Sunday school lesson, there you go. You got a freebie. But you got a lot of freebies, actually. So, okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I pray that God would bless you, and that all of you would go on to plant fellowships and ministries focusing on reaching your local Muslims.
We were